ಯಾರನ್ನು ಕೇಳಿ ತೆಗೆಸ್ಕೊಟ್ರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ತಂದು
Techies Tech Drive Bengaluru edition, which is an integral program of the Lenovo IT for SMB initiative in association with Times of India, the Times Group. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I thought the lunch was good enough. I expected some sort of a response. Good afternoon. Fantastic. That's a great response here today, and we are delighted having each of you with us. Well, before we begin the event, I hope all of you have put your phones on silent mode and you're gearing up for today's event, and you know the agenda by now. I was right there telling you what is in store for all of you. And now we look Bengaluru, so ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಆರಂಭ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೂ ಮುಂಚೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಲೇಬೇಕು, ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸಲೇಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ನನ್ನ ಇಚ್ಛೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಸಹೃದಯಿ ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರಿಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅರಿನಾಳ ಹೃದಯಪೂರ್ವಕ ನಮನಗಳು. ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಆದ ಸ್ವಾಗತ, ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ಸದ್ದು ಇನ್ನೂ ಜೋರಾಗಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು. ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ರಾಜಧಾನಿ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆದಿರುವಂತಹ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ಇದು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸೋ ಮಚ್. ಹಾರ್ಟಿ ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಟು ಆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಯು ಟು Times Techies Tech Drive Bengaluru edition, an integral program of the Lenovo IT for Assembly initiative in association with the Times Group. Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to see you all face to face, happy to see you smile, happy to applaud, happy to see those excited eyes, and I know you're looking forward for the event. What better way than starting this year with a series of inspiring and knowledge-sharing engagements in person across multiple cities, which is curated by the Times Techies called the Tech Drives, as part of larger initiative by IT for Assembly, which is brought to you by Lenovo in association with the Times Group. Ladies and gentlemen, just before I head on, I want to hear those applause coming in again.
Music is
Thank you. Lenovo IT for Assembly is a mission-critical initiative for the SMEs, that is for all of you, to understand and chart out a roadmap on digital transformation that would help all of you to optimize resources, increase operational efficiencies, and offer better customer experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular initiative would host sessions starting with tech drives curated by Times Techies to enable the mid-market businesses with smarter technological solutions for growth. Small and medium businesses have always been the growth engines that has been contributing significantly to the country's GDP. In recent times, we have witnessed some fundamental changes in the way we live and conduct businesses. Being resilient and future-proof are now critical for survival. Businesses of all sizes need to leverage technology to ensure growth in their respective domains. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, Lenovo launched IT for Assembly initiative along with the Times Group. To commence the Tech Drive event today, we would like to invite onto our stage. I hope you guys are ready, you know what to do. Put your hands together as I invite Mr. Deepak Saluja, Director Response, the Times of India Group, to deliver the welcome address. Everybody, let's welcome with a round of applause, Mr. Deepak Saluja with us.
Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Mr. Naveen Tiwari, the founder and CEO of InMobi, a group which has a distinction of being the first unicorn in India. So lovely to have you with us here. To all the industry experts and the people who are going to be on the fireside chat and on the panel, welcome. Mr. Shailendra Katyal, MD Lenovo, and the senior leadership team of Lenovo. My colleague, Mr. Sujit John, who is going to be the moderator for the fireside chat and the panel. He is the business editor of Times of India. My friends from Times of India, and most importantly, all of you here in the audience today. Thank you for taking the time and being here for this event. IT for SMB brought you an initiative from Lenovo in association with the Economic Times. We are doing this event as she mentioned earlier in 4 cities. We kick-started this in Hyderabad last month, and we are very happy to be here in Bangalore today. Immediately after this, we will be going to Bombay and Delhi, doing a similar event there. We as Indians actually have a huge aspiration right now to move and leapfrog India from being a developing nation to becoming a developed nation. The goal, near-term goal, is 5 trillion economy, then going to 27 million economy. One of the key players in this journey who has a huge social and economic impact on India is the SME sector. As per the latest numbers that I have here, there are about 63 million MSMEs in India in service and manufacturing sectors. They collectively contribute almost 30% of GDP of India. A huge number, and even more to the Indians. 110 million people have jobs here, and it's growing for leaps and bounds. So in our aspiration to leapfrog India, it cannot happen till we have a fast-paced SME business booming in India. In the last few years, we've seen some tectonic shifts happening in the business, forcing the business to reimagine their growth and business strategies. The need to have very smart solutions and quick solutions in the market, which is so volatile, has pushed everyone to look at technology from being a good to have in the business to a must to have in the business. Technology adoption has actually helped businesses getting tools for better effectiveness and productivity, and therefore giving them the edge to fight out in this global, highly competitive world. So with that in the context, we have set this session up for today, which is Times Techie, Tech Drive, and IT for SME Awards, which are going to follow later. We have some exciting fireside chats and panel discussions, and I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you also enjoy it and take away learnings from there. Thank you all for being here, and I hope you have a great session. Thanks.
And a big hand to Mr. Deepak Saluja for setting the context for the event. I would now like to invite onto the stage Mr. Shailendra Katyal, Managing Director, Lenovo India, joining us on the stage. Please everybody, let's welcome him with a round of applause. Lovely having you with us, sir. We are delighted. So before we begin your session, we would like to request Mr. Deepak to hand over the memento to you as a token of love and gratitude from our side for the strategic partnership that is built on together for the event. Everybody, let's give a big hand. ಕನ್ನಡಿಗರ ಅಬ್ಬರ ಹೆಂಗಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನೀವು ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, ಇನ್ನೂ ಜೋರ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ. Thank you. May I have the memento on the stage, please? Once again, sir, we are delighted having you with us. Thank you, Mr. Deepak Saluja, for doing the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand once again for the inaugural address given by Mr. Shailendra Katyal. Over to you, sir.
The mic on. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for giving us time on a Friday afternoon. I know all of you will be looking forward
Sir,
to
audio,
it, and
coming.
we will put you in a good
Hello?
mood for that.
Hello?
For the next 2.5 hours of the day.
Hello.
When we were discussing this with the
Audio
Times
ಕಮ್ಮಿ
Group
ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ.
a few months back,
ಬರ್ತಾನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ.
that as a technology company, how can we help a very important sector, which is the SME sector, to grow faster? And we thought there's no better format than to learn from the experts. And really thank the panel here
Audio
for
ಬರ್ತಾ
coming
ಇಲ್ಲ.
here and showing us the willingness to share their stories with you. Because remember, the unicorn that we celebrate today was a SME like you, not too
Audio
long
ಬರ್ತಾ
back.
ಇಲ್ಲ.
That's the knowledge transfer that we are seeking, and hopefully whatever little we learn from this session will help us as a technology company also build the right solutions for this sector. So a lot of what I wanted to cover has already been said by Deepak, so it will make me move a little faster. So this is what we should all be very proud and excited about, right? India's decade. And when we live through this change, it's difficult to experience, but once you look back and see the progress that the country has made over the last 10 odd years, it's just been outstanding, right? A lot of things that we take for granted, whether it is social security, number like Aadhaar, or you look at UPI, or you look at 4G, a lot of technology shifts have happened in the last decade, which is now being acknowledged around the world as the India digital stack, one of the most secure and the most, I would say, efficient digital stack that anywhere in the world has got produced. So the foundation has got, and some of this is kind of known, that India has a lot of demographic dividend, a lot of young people who are getting skilled and trying to enter the workforce. And with this foundation of digital stack that has got built, India can now talk about the next decade being far, far better, which is leading to the numbers like 5 trillion, 10 trillion, 25, which seemed like impossible. We were half our size in the last 8 years, the economy has kind of doubled. And a lot of that growth has been driven by innovative companies like my good friend Naveen runs here. 107 unicorns in the country. A lot of money is actually chasing good ideas which are coming into the country. So this is what we still believe. Deepak did cover the fact that 30% of the India's GDP is run by youth. You also create a lot of employment. But also this new age force, the new kind of SME which has come in, is actually showing us the way. That if you started small, it doesn't mean that you have to remain small right through the life. Because a lot of technology actually creates a digital access. It democratizes access to a lot of innovation and market access even at a global scale. So thinking small maybe right now, where you focus on innovation, but the fact that you can scale to a much bigger business, not just in India, but globally, is the confidence with which all of you should be facing the world. These are some of the trends that we observe globally in the technology space, and being one of the technology leaders globally. We do have an inside view on how technology trends are shaping up. The first thing is the movement towards everything as a service. You've all heard about SaaS and then platform as a service, now infrastructure as a service, cloud as a practice. It's not too long in the future that we visualize that everything in technology will be consumption based or as a service. And in the consumer space, we've seen all of us get used to a subscription model on everything, right? That you don't have asset ownership, you are very happy instead of buying a car, what was called Uberization of all services has already happened. The second big topic, and you would be hearing about this and reading about this in the papers every day, the ESG commitment that first the governments have started making and then all companies have started making, that is creating that positive force, I would say, for a circular economy. And it's very important for anyone who is making technology or consuming technology to be aware of this topic. That themes like how do you reduce your carbon credit, how do you dispose of your e-waste in the right manner, will create a lot of positive momentum on the circular economy topic. Digitization, we all see that as you want to grow your business to bigger scale, you can't do it without technology being at the core of it. So it's not a nice to do activity. Somewhere unless you are digital at your core, the scaling will be far more difficult, and a lot of traditional companies are facing that challenge, that how they will become more digital and more nimble-footed to compete with the new age startups. I don't need to tell you all this. A lot of this is in the press already in terms of Web 3.0, Industry 4.0, but it's not arcane language anymore. We see practical applications coming in almost every single day. And some of these technologies we do have, including good metaverse kind of solutions which are good industry applications. So something which was more theoretical maybe just a couple of years back is now ready for commercial application. And the fifth point that we do see as a trend, as 5G is getting rolled out across the world, and including in India, next 2-3 years, the kind of data explosion that we would see will create a lot of other opportunities. Now, when you think of this from a CIO, CTO point of view, and you would have a technology function within your company, it has created a lot of complexity. It is creating complexity at a very, very fast pace. So I'm sure when you talk to your IT team, they would talk about how do we grapple with this change? Should I move to the cloud? Should I come back? Should I have a hybrid environment? How do I manage security? How do I even manage my workforce, which is becoming far more distributed rather than being only in one space? So that's the challenge that we have, and we do believe that there will be a need for more trusted partners to come in who can do more end-to-end solutions for you and not just look at one piece of your IT ecosystem. And that is the transformation that we are going through as a company. We've been around for a long time. Like I said, we are the #1 computing company in the world. Many of you in the room would be our customers with ThinkPads and other products. But last 2-3 years, we've been on this journey for transformation. So everything that you need in hardware is already with us, right? Whether you want a HPC solution, 1/3 of supercompute in the world is driven on Lenovo supercomputers now. We have Motorola as a product, we have tablets, obviously the ThinkPad continues as a strong innovative product that we have. But anything you want from pocket to cloud is something that we can offer to you. Increasingly we are building a solution capability, right? That if you want to take a metaverse solution, you may have the application, you may have the hardware, jointly can we go and take that to real industry application. That's the kind of solutions organization that we are creating, and as of maybe the last quarter, 10% of our global revenues are now coming from what we call the services and solution group, and not just the traditional hardware devices that we used to sell. And the third part, more critical for India, we take pride in the fact that we've been manufacturing in India for the last 20 years, and almost every product that you want, whether it's a Motorola phone or a tablet or a computer, we can give you made in India boxes. And that's our premise. We'll give you world-class technology, but developed in the delivered in the most local fashion possible. You would be aware of this, and maybe I'm repeating myself. We are a big company. We are $70 billion as of last year, 159 in the Fortune 500 rank. Very respected for our engineering, our supply chain, and our innovation. We've been in the top 25 on the BCG Innovation Index for the last few years. And whatever innovation we've done historically on hardware is the same innovation and R&D capability we are bringing into solutions as well. So thank you for your time. This was just a quick introduction to what the company is today. We are going through a transformation. But as we learn from you on what your business outcomes are and what is the problem you want us to solve, I'm sure me and my team can gear up to give you a much better overall experience and not just the hardware experience that you would have had from us in the past. So with that, thank you and look forward to the panel discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shailendra Katyal, to deliver the entire talk and a lot more information on Lenovo India and its initiatives that were taken up. Well, we'd now like to take a moment and invite our next speaker, who's our keynote speaker for the day, and he is the founder and chief executive officer of InMobi Group. Ladies and gentlemen, InMobi Group has global businesses across consumer technology and enterprise platforms. InMobi Glance and Reposo is built and operated on the philosophy of building the best consumer internet experiences from India to the world. An alumnus of IIT Kanpur and Harvard Business School, Naveen founded InMobi in 2008 after a brief stint at McKinsey. InMobi was India's first unicorn and is now one of the world's leading advertising platforms. How many of you recall 2011? We all do. We were all proud Indians, don't we? Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Naveen Tiwari, founder and chief executive officer of InMobi Group, joining us here too. So we are delighted having you with us, and the stage is all yours.
Good to be here. Can I say one thing before we start? You know, I actually didn't realize this when I came into the event earlier in the day, that it's only been 3 years for this event and it's so big already. So can we have a big round of applause for the time? And I remember this because, you know, my good friend Sujit here actually, I think I heard it's your baby. So congratulations on making this so successful. What I remember, by the way, was 3 years ago, and I should have known this, but 3 years ago was the first time it started off. There were 4 or 5 of us who did something for taking this off. Part of this was done out of my backyard. So, you know, think about this. We're talking about startup, entrepreneurship, SMEs. These are things which start small and then suddenly become much larger. So congratulations, Sujit, on and your team for such a phenomenal work that you've done. Please give him a big round of applause. So today I want to talk about a few things. I think one, as was just mentioned, every company, I actually think of our company today, not as an SMB by the way. I only consider our company today as an S in the MB, right? Because I think the world is so large and the possibilities are so many that we should be thinking about the world very differently. And I think from the slide that was just shown up there, it was so good to see a few numbers that you put up just now. There were the 4 boxes there. The first 2 boxes were more around India's capital expenditure, the economy. Second was age, the demographic dividend. The other 2, there was no forecast on those. Those were things that have happened. Both of those were technology driven. And the reason why you can't put a forecast was not because Chalat didn't want to put a forecast. Because it is impossible to predict how rapidly the world changes in the world of technology, because you could say we will get there, which would seem impossible, and you will get to 3 levels ahead of that. And I think that's the world that we live in. And that's the world, because we live in that world, we should be utilizing that narrative to our advantage, and especially in India. Now, one of the things that the reason I get called for talks, by the way, just to be very clear, is because we're the first unicorn. I didn't even do anything for it. I didn't know that there was anything called unicorn. I was, suddenly one day somebody valued you over $1 billion, and you get this triumphant of, being the first unicorn. It's like, I had to ask the question at that point of time, what is a unicorn? It was clearly a single horn, animal which is funny looking that kids play around with, and then you get acknowledged for it. And frankly, 2011 it is a blur for me because I didn't understand it. It was much later that I understood. But here's what I do know, and here's what I'm really proud of. For hundreds of years, we Indians have lived in oppression. Hundreds of years. We were ruled. It took one incidence of 1857 to start the journey of independence for our country, which we of course received and got 90 years later. But that first movement of 1857 was very important for the final outcome to happen 90 years later. Similarly, if you think about apartheid, you think about the, what really happens. There is a Netflix documentary that I was just, watching a few days ago, and there is a African American basketball player, part of NBA, Bill. And Bill was the first African American basketball player, and he got into basketball for the Celtics, which is Boston. Played in the mid-50s to all the 60s. And he struggled. He struggled and struggled and struggled. But here's what he did. Because of him and his success, today sports is dominated by African Americans. I think what we were able to do, and we have struggled a lot of pain and suffering, I think we may have unknowingly started a revolution in India that I am very proud of. And that revolution wasn't planned. There was at no point of time we thought that we are trying to build a revolution, or that we even have an intention of a revolution. The only thing that was clear to us at that point of time is, I loved my country, and I thought it had potential, and I just refused to essentially believe that somewhere else can be done, things can be done somewhere else better. I always believed that we can do things in our country at a level, at a pace, and at quality that's not done before. And yes, it was told to me not once, not twice, umpteen number of times that you cannot do it here. And maybe that was the driving force in all of this. That was the single driving force in all of this, to say, wait a second, how can you tell us that we cannot do this here? It reminded me, maybe not then, subconsciously somewhere, of the same oppression that we have faced for hundreds of years, for what other societies face for hundreds and hundreds of years before they come out of it. And I hope what we may have done, and there are 107 unicorns out there, that's just an indication of what the country could do in a short period of 11 years. What we could do in a short period of 11 years is amazing. What we would do over the next 10-15 years, I think the world is yet to even visualize and imagine. I think it is for us to lose what we can do over the next 10 to 15 years, not for anybody else. And I think we should all be very fortunate and thank ourselves to be actually here today in this world where the change can be brought about by us. If you think about the biggest golden era of United States, for example, it is not today. It's not today. It was the 50s, the 40s and the 50s and the 60s where they created things. They created things. That led them, and not just like, one person created, two people created. It was a tsunami of creation. It was a tsunami of creation. So if you truly ask me, I actually think about the world where the revolution that digital will give us is an ability to create in this new world altogether. The world of creation. Creation is the biggest value creation that one can do. We can all follow. We can all do what's been already done and we can do it again. That's okay. It's not a bad thing to do. But if you can create, that's where value creation truly happens. And that's why a lot of the companies change from being a small enterprise to being billion-dollar enterprise because they try to create. And therefore, creation is a very important aspect that I think our country actually has. Now, the fact that we can create, the world is recognizing it. The world is recognizing it. And therefore, it would be amiss on our side to not utilize them. There are three things that are important to me as we think about the world going forward. One, we need to be bold, ambitious, and we need to think big. I think we do injustice to ourselves, frankly. We do injustice to ourselves. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s thinking the big things can be created by others. I don't think that's true anymore. I think in the world that we live in today, it is us who can create these big things. But the challenge is not our ability to create, it's our ability to imagine. We started off as an advertising platform in India. This is 2008. We built, and we then took a decision which was never supported by anybody. We took a decision to then build the platform globally. At that point of time, not many had seen a global, building a product from India and taking that global was not seen. Today we are one of the top 7 advertising platforms in the world. And if you take advertising as an economy, out of the top 5 companies on the planet, 4, if not all 5 of them, actually build their businesses on advertising. That's how big and powerful that economy is, and every large player in the world wants to be in that space. Not only that, I think at some point of time, we were not satisfied with being a behemoth in advertising. We actually moved and said about 5 years ago that we want to be in the consumer internet business. And we built a platform called Glance, and that's now on 500 million phones across the world, and we are changing the way consumers use their phones. We want to truly revolutionize the way every one of us use their phone. We may fail in that process, but we will certainly go for it. And that is more important to me than actually the fact that we're successful or fail. But we will certainly go for that, and hopefully in the next year or so, about 1 billion phones would carry our platform called Glance on the phones. Now, to me, at all points of time as a company, thinking big, being bold and ambitious is important. And so one of the things as you think about your world, say, are you being bold enough or not? are you being audacious enough or not? Because that, doing things is anyway hard. Why not go for something big? Your chances of failure, by the way, don't necessarily change drastically if you go for something big. That is a misnomer. Your chances of success, if you are successful, actually give you much bigger results if you actually go for something big. So that's point one. Point two, innovation. As I said earlier, creation is the biggest way in which we can create value. Innovation is ingrained in our, within us. We are very deeply innovated. Again, if you go back and you think about what all can be done through innovation, we have an advantage as a country. We have an advantage because we have an amazing amount of talent which is technology oriented. We can innovate faster because we can put more people at the job to try and test out innovation. But it requires you to be bold and ambitious to actually be innovative. If you want to be building things that have already been done before, trust me, your chances of failure are higher because you don't necessarily have a reason to succeed. But if you can build out an innovation on top of it, you would start to see results which are just disproportionate and exponential. And so the big ask in this is to be very, very innovative. Part of the thing that we do, by the way, we build platforms globally. As we build these global platforms, one of the things that is very important to us to be innovative is to create new things. In that creation, we fail many a times. We don't give up. And I think what's been successful for us, and now it has been the fact that we have continuously innovated. We first innovated on the advertising business. We were part of the first generation of new way of advertising. We innovated on the consumer internet platform with Glance. We are innovating on how the creative economy will evolve. We are innovating on all these three dimensions. The second one, Glance in itself, became a unicorn a few years later. And that, not because we built something because we had something else bigger, is because we innovated. And so the point I'm trying to make is that the outcome of innovation is phenomenally big, and therefore a big ask to think about, are you truly innovating? Because innovators are the ones who see the world that others cannot see. So are you one of those who can see the world that others cannot see? Because if you can see a world that others cannot see, then if you get there, nobody else will have. And therefore you have a huge chance of success. So that's second. Third point is more around, failures. That's a part of life. That's a huge part of life. I remember, about 5-7 years ago, we did our first consumer launch of a platform called Meep. It was very well covered in media. It went all out. We went all out with it. And it was a spectacular failure. It was a public failure, so humiliating personally. That was my first failure, by the way, in the corporate world. And it was very humiliating. It was very hard to kind of come out of it. Everybody gave me guidance to say, don't try this ever again. It's true, but you would say that, right? Because, you failed. So what is the exact thing to say? Don't do that exact thing that failed. But isn't the answer to say, do it again because my probability of success is a little higher? What happened in poker? If you play poker, if you lose a hand, what do? Go back home or you play the next hand with more money on the table? You would put more money on the table and play the second hand because that's your chance of winning. You have improved your chances of winning. So while it sounds so logical and easy to say, it was very hard, but we tried again and we succeeded the second time and the third time and the fourth time. After that, the first one was a failure. The point I want to make is failure is going to be hugely part of it. So the thing that you need to know is that what game are you playing? Unfortunately for a lot of the startups and us, we have suffered from playing the short game. The short game is raise money, do something, get out. That's not the game. If you change the game in your mind and say, I'm going to play the long game, a game which would basically be, I'm going to build something that will be there 30 years, 50 years, even 100 years, way beyond me, then these things will not bother you. And to me, if I go back to the big vision that exists out there, that we will be one of the top two economies in the world, the opportunity that exists is not for the next 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. The opportunity that exists is for the next 20 to 25 years. And so if you play with 20 to 25 years in mind, everyone can build hundreds of millions of dollars worth of companies in this room that over the next 5 to 10 years will get created. But you've got to play the long game. In that long game, do not get bothered by the blips. And so, personally, the ambition that I sit with is, of course, needless to say, I'm hugely inspired by where India is and where India will go. Hugely. Earlier, it was exuberance only or largely. Today, I think it's also becoming reality. It is in our hands to lose that game. It's not in somebody else's hand. You know, there are countries which are basically doing a lot of theft wars here. Great. As long as we don't trip over ourselves, I think we're going to make this happen. I think India, the world is going to run on software written by India. I think the world is going to run on software built by India. I don't think we want to be the back-end writers anymore. We don't want to be in the background anymore. We don't need to be in the background anymore. And I think if you continue to do this, we will be able to replicate a new generation of companies, not in hundreds, but in tens of thousands in the next 10 years. If the last 10 years created 100, and if the path has to be same path has to be followed, it will be tens of thousands of billions of dollars of companies that will get created over the next 10 to 15 years. And so that's the ambition with which I sit, that's the ambition with which I work every day, and I hope India is able to get there over the next few years, and that will be the dream that at least I live with. So with that, thank you so much for inviting me here. It's an absolute pleasure on a Friday afternoon to talk to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for inspiring us to dream big and paving the way for more unicorns out of India. It's certain that technology has played a pivotal role in Mobi's faster and smarter growth. Everybody, let's give a big round of applause once again to Mr. Naveen, please. I would now like to invite Mr. Shailendra Katyal and Mr. Deepak Saluja to please join us on the stage to felicitate our speaker, Mr. Naveen Tiwari. Everybody, please. Thank you. May I have the mementos on the stage, please? Thank you once again, everybody. Thank you so much, Mr. Shailendra Katyal and Mr. Deepak Saluja, for doing the honors. It's time to move ahead, but just before that, I'd like to urge all of you. I hope you guys are tweeting. Are you? How many of you are on Twitter? I see a few hands. We'll give you a moment to do so. I want you all to open your Twitter and click your best picture, probably the audience picture, or probably of the stage, whatever you want to upload on your Twitter. You may do so now. You get a moment to do so. And while uploading a picture with a nice tweet, whatever you write on, ensure you use the hashtag ET-Lenovo-IT4SMB and hashtag Times of India. You can also mention our handles in your tweets, that is @Lenovo-IT4SMB, @Lenovo_in, that is Lenovo India, and @Times of India. We would love to see all of these tweets coming up. I've been told that the best tweet will certainly receive 20-gram gold coin, probably 5-gram silver coin, some tickets to China if you want to. We don't mind telling you where to buy them from, but for now, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to give you a moment to send across your tweets. You may do so. All right, and let me remind you, after the fireside chat, we have a panel discussion. After the panel discussion, we have the awards which will be given away. We want all of you to stay with us put here. And we also have our networking dinner and cocktails that's arranged at level 2. And we urge all of you to join us. I do know some of you have asked for a networking time with Lenovo India team. And Lenovo India team is excited to have a chat with all of you. Well, with that, it's time for me to tell you what else is in store. Coming up next, a panel of people who have really guided their organizations to scale up and also move into category-defining positions in the marketplace. Ladies and gentlemen, these panelists today are those who have been an inspiration for the work they've done, and their invaluable contributions have had an impact on our society. Ladies and gentlemen, as I invite our host and our speakers, I want all of you to hold your applause, and only applaud when I call out their names, alright? We have with us Mr. Sujit Chon, the editor of Times Techies, the Times of India, to host the fireside chat with our esteemed panel. Sujit Chon, sir, please take your seat, is also the Deputy Resident Editor of the Times of India, Bengaluru. He has been with TOI for over 27 years, spending over 22 years focusing on covering business and technology. He launched Times Techies in 2019, which is a content page in the print edition of the Times of India appearing bi-weekly, celebrating technology and those who power it. Ladies and gentlemen, before I tell you what the topic and our speakers are, the man requires a round of applause. I think if something great has to begin, there has to be an initiation, and the over to you, sir. Lovely. With that, please take your seat. I'd like to tell you what the topic of fireside discussion is going to be, that is, technology, a great leveler, enterprise versus startup view. And our esteemed speakers who will join us here today on the stage are Mr. Dilip Joseph, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of Manipal Health Enterprises Private Limited, Manipal Hospitals, an integrated healthcare services system and the second largest hospitals network in India with 28 facilities and over 7,800 beds. He has more than 32 years of experience in various sectors and across functional areas. In healthcare, where he has spent the last 18 years, he was a Group Chief Executive Officer of Care Hospitals, managing a network of tertiary care facilities. We welcome you, sir. Thank you for joining us here today. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together now. Our next speaker is Mr. Chaitanya Ramalingegoda, Director and co-founder WakeFit.co. With over 18 years of experience spanning entrepreneurship, management consulting and marketing, Chaitanya serves as the director and co-founder of WakeFit.co, transforming the home and sleep solutions industry. He currently advises startups on various aspects of product, marketing, growth and funding strategies. Prior to WakeFit.co, Chaitanya's extensive experience ranges in managing consulting engagements in North America, Europe and India for Fortune 50 and Fortune 100 clients in the high-tech, enterprise software, R&D and IT services, banking, financial services, insurance and healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're excited. I won't hold you up any further. The topic is technology, a great leveler, enterprise, let's call it the big daddy, versus the startup view, which means the young kids on the block, right? We want to know more about digital transformation. I hand over the stage and the entire fireside to our host, Mr. Sujit Chon. Everybody, let's give a big hand, please, to everybody on stage. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Dilip has a flight to catch, so I won't delay this. We're already a little behind schedule. We told Dilip we'll let him off by 3:20. He's kind of agreed by 3:25. So let me quickly start with you. Chaitanya, in case we can probably continue the discussion in case this gets a little you have become the second biggest hospital chain in India. You've grown very rapidly in all of this, in building this business. How has technology played? What kind of roles have technology played?
Thank you, Sujit. And before that, for all the people who are silently wondering, what is this guy doing in this forum, and how is he a techie? Let me just say that such is life, I have sympathy for you. So,
I'm sure you have a lot of technology to talk about.
To begin with, Sujit, that in a startup context like this, or a tech-oriented summit like this, we should remember that healthcare delivery in India is still very much personal. That technology is something which got accelerated in the recent past. But a lot of care delivery is by doctors sitting across with a patient or conducting a procedure. Therefore, when we expand, a lot of that what we look for initially is that our capability to deliver healthcare of the particular kind exists in the place that we can deliver the same standard of care where we go to. But in the last few years, particularly the impetus that impetus may be a wrong word, but the effect of COVID brought in an adoption of technology that we could use for 2 or 3 examples that we could bring in technology for remote monitoring. COVID put in a lot of restrictions on the ability of people to travel in India and also people who come to India from outside, and it created disease progression, and then we had to resort to technologies which still allowed us to monitor a patient from a remote location where he or she could not access care. There are some cases where post-discharge kind of events where we could still act on. To give an example, that Manipal has a tie-up with Google Health. It's the first in India where we give a Fitbit device to a patient who gets discharged from the hospital. But to start with, we offered it to people after a cardiac procedure, or some cases for people who after a joint replacement kind of a procedure. The reason to select these two are that these are the patients who require an active life post-discharge. That they would need to exercise, they would need to walk. So we use this device integrated with their telephone and integrated on the back end with our system to send reminders to them, say get up and walk. In 15 minutes you have not moved, walk for the next 2 minutes. Nudge them to walk, nudge them to exercise. Remind them of medication, and at the back end, they could also report us their discomfiture, pain. And when we did the pilot for about 200 patients, we found when we compared their outcomes and the recovery rates with the patients who are not on Fitbit, that's a remarkable difference. That's a remarkable difference, and we were able to give the device free.
You measure this.
We can measure this on the back end, because. Despite what the hospitals talk about the outcomes of a patient, what we should rely on is something called PROM, the patient-reported outcome measurement. A patient is the best person to say whether he or she recovered, have their symptoms been cured. I think that on the PROM basis, we find that there is a significant improvement in this case. So this is one example. I think in the past we would not have thought about it. Patients would not have probably adhered to it, but it is something which we are now seeing live. We are now rolling it across India. We have 28 locations. We are rolling it across. It is available in all our hospitals in Bangalore. And being a tech savvy city, Bangalore has really taken to it. One more example to quickly tell you, Sujit, is that this is again a worldwide organization with the first tie-up in India. It's a company called iSciences, and they have something called a patient status engine. What happens is a patient who's set in the hospital could be wirelessly monitored. Just to give a little context to it, a lot of the time we end up putting a patient in the ICU only for monitoring, not really for an intensive therapy, which is a waste of resource. Patient end up paying more to be in an ICU environment when all that he or she requires is monitoring. So we could do it outside of an ICU environment, and this wireless monitoring could give again a dashboard to patient and the doctors, and in the event an intervention is required, we could quickly transfer the patient to the ICU. It reduces the cost for the patient, reduces the dependency on ICU, and those beds can be kept for people who genuinely need them. So this again is an example of how technology.
Can you extend it to the homes?
We could. Technology, yes, wireless monitoring could extend to home, but at the moment we are a little hesitant about it because when we do it in the hospital, we know he is a few feet away from ICU. when it is at home, we have to be a little bit more careful, but it's a matter of time before it gets rolled out into homes. So, to everybody here, I just want to say healthcare is not the first thing which comes to your mind when you think of technology, but in the back end it is picking up. That in maybe examples of many that you would quote here would be maybe front-end visible examples, but healthcare is catching up. I think old people like us are catching up. Therefore, that's probably why I'm there in this forum.
And Manipal has been. I think you tried out Watson initially. Of course, that didn't work out the way for IBM itself did not work out the way sure. But you have been at the forefront of some of these things. I'll come back to you, Dilip. But before Chaitanya, you were discussing the other day, and you were saying technology literally is at the foundation of everything that you do. Give us a sense of it.
7 years ago, we didn't even exist. So today, when we say that we have...
It's 7 years and you already some 700 crore or something, is it?
Today we are about 820 crore.
820 crore. And you have the largest furniture factory in India.
Largest furniture factory spread over about 6 lakh square feet. And 2 years ago, furniture wasn't there. And so the company is changing so rapidly that we are all trying to scale and catch up with one and only one thing. What does the customer want? We are not here today because of any capital that we have raised, any brand budget we have done, anything that seems to the outside world that we have done. That's not the reason. The one and only reason is what do customers want and can we deliver it to them as fast as possible. So to do this, every single part of the business is technology enabled. So the production, the factories, the machines that are there, I think earlier Shailendra alluded to Industry 4.2. The designs and machines that we use are exactly that. Highly automated furniture factories, where somebody on the one end just feeds the raw material and somebody chooses the design to pick from the server, from the cloud, and then feeds the raw material and everything gets taken care of. Similarly, what is the production mandate? What is the stock everywhere? Where is the truck currently? Between the first mile and the middle mile, and middle mile to the last mile, and last mile from the last warehouse to the consumer's home. Where is every single product at any point in time? Can we track it? And on the consumer side, if you look at how the browsing experience itself is different, can Sujit John's browsing experience be very different from your browsing experience? Because what you want, what products you like, what you want to buy, where you're from are all different. So can be customized to that level, where nowadays they call it a market of one. You are a separate market altogether because your life aspirations, dreams, everything are different, so you want something, while you would want something else. So that's on the consumer side. So the point I'm trying to make is the only reason we've been able to disrupt and become number 2 or number 3 in India in this space is, and where the incumbents are 40-50 years old, is exactly this. It's just the speed of understanding and delivering what the customer wants.
It's enabled you to really be agile on what? In understanding customers, in moving your goods, in production, all of that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you think startups that are digitally native and that tend to be like more agile than the traditional enterprises?
Yes, by nature. And there's only one reason for it. We just have more access to consumer behavior. A traditional brand would work through 3 or 4 or 5 layers of middlemen to reach the consumer. Once in 2 years or once in 3 years, they would commission a Nielsen study or a IMRB study and then base their next 3 years decisions and plans based on that. For us, the consumer interaction is daily. They like a product, they like something that went wrong, we hear it on social media within a few hours. They dislike something, we hear it on social media within a few minutes. And then they call us, they talk to us, they're on chat, they're on WhatsApp, they're on social, they're on website, they're everywhere. So when you have to have the technology to be accessible to every single place and respond at the same place. So our data science and technology layer is exactly what covers this whole journey. We cover more areas as you go specifically, but without technology there's absolutely no way we could have gotten to it.
Do you measure the impact of technology in sense, in terms of costs and outcome and all that?
It's very hard to measure because there's no benchmark to compare against. How did the incumbents operate against? That was a very, even to this day, large companies are running on Ramco ERP or Excel sheets or Tally, where they're okay. They're doing 300, 400 crore revenue and they're steadily growing at 5-10% profitable. And that's more than sufficient. But for us, when we have to measure ourselves on how we are saving cost, it's us against us. Are we better than last month? Are we better than 2 weeks ago? On NPS, on CSAT, one store, one product breaks, we know in the next day's report. The funnel drops, we know in the next 2-hourly report. Where the traffic doesn't come from one particular source. So that is the kind of speed we have to do to continuously innovate and be where the customers are.
So you're measuring yourself against yourself. How do you manage your technology? Do you outsource the work, or do you have an in-house team?
We have a mix of that, Sujit. There are conventional technology that, hospitals anyway need a HMI, Hospital Management Information System, which is the backbone which runs through our 28 hospitals. It is on one database, and, a patient can walk into any hospital and his or her past data will be available in that place. So those kind of things are managed in-house, by a team. But wherever new stuff is tried out, and for example, we did need to introduce an app during COVID. Earlier an app was not an expectation from the patients. We had to quickly do one and then keep on adding features, because they would compare that app with any other kind of an app from any other sector. So that was something which is not in our DNA, where, like Chaitanya said, you would need to be agile, you would need to be reactive. We outsource that. We have a lot of people that we work with, small firms, startups, who actually bring in that DNA which does not reside in my system. So I think it has to be, a mix of this. In the last 2 or 3 years, there would be 5 or 6 partners that we have been working with. And I think they bring in that agility, which sometimes the scale prevents us, or the complexity of the business prevents from, us from inculcating in our own system. And, just to take on one thing that Chaitanya was saying, you asked about measurement of return on a technology investment. I think from a healthcare perspective, we would look at it from proxies. 5 years back, a patient used to spend about 4 days in the hospital. We have a metric called ALOS, average length of stay. So 5 years back, a patient used to spend 4 days in Manipal hospital. That was the average. It has now come down to 2.97. So, a lot of that is because of clinical innovations, but a lot of that is also about the process innovations driven by technology. And the measure is that what it means is we treat the same number of patients, but have an extra day in hand. That our capacity is enhanced 25%, right? So many bed capacity is released. So that is a proxy that we could look at. Like you said, NPS, Google rating, those are other proxies that we would look at, We may not be able to narrow down an ROI on a particular intervention, but I think when we look at all these interventions put together, what it does for the patients, what it does for the larger community, and how it reflects on the matrices that we follow, and eventually what it translates to our PNL, that's the way we would want to do.
Okay. Security data that you have is
sensitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what kind of measures do you have?
So that is a significant concern, Sujit. Again, 5 years back, people had to come to hospital to access their data, right? But there are now many doors or windows which allows access to our system. That all your apps, which people who use Manipal app, you can download all your data on that. It is verified. But your reports, your trends of your various values, everything can be seen there. So what it means is people are interacting with us, through the app, through the website, through other kind of interfaces. So the access increasing through multiple channels would mean that much more vulnerability. We keep assessing very frequently. We have external partners who help us with it, the VAPT and other kind of exercise which we keep doing. But it's a big concern. And if somebody holds the hospital to ransom, like it happened recently in Delhi, we would have read it in the media, and operations can come to a standstill. The entire hospital operation can come to a standstill because everything is on an IT platform now. So that's the flip of it. So we have to remain a step ahead of what others are trying to do. That's expensive, but I think such is life again.
I'm sure there are a lot of people looking to spectacular. I'm sure your team is getting very stressed now.
Five more minutes?
Yeah, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, 5. Is that okay? Okay.
I know they are getting stressed there, I can see, but 5 more minutes.
Same thing. What do you do for your technology work? Do you have an in-house team? I think you do most of it in-house right now, right?
Yes, right. And the root cause is the same thing that I alluded to earlier, speed. We are a tech-enabled company and there's no getting away from it. So if that is the most important thing, then we cannot outsource it. And there's a lot of companies, a lot of product companies that come and say that we will implement, services companies that come and say we will augment or take over the development. But nowhere is the pace at the level that we want. We ask a simple question, okay, this kind of customization, when will it take? Okay, we'll put it onto a sprint, we'll first understand everything, 3 weeks later it will go on a release. 3 weeks is a lifetime for us. We want it released in the next 48 hours. So those kinds of things are what mandate. But the definition of outsourcing itself has changed in the last few years. It's no longer that you have one team in-house, one team outside, or a services organization. Outsourcing can now mean many things. For example, we have used crowd testing platform, where there are these companies which have homemakers, students, people who are at home with having some spare time on their hands, but they have a certain device and certain browser. Whenever we have to do a new release, we hand it over to them. They test it across all the devices, all the flows that we have given, and they give it back to us as feedback. So that is suddenly in one place you are able to get testing done, not a company. And we don't know who the actual end testers are, but we are able to access people's free time. Second way of outsourcing is ChatGPT and other tools. Our team has already started using those for marketing collateral.
Really?
Yes. The performance creatives. First draft of the SEO articles.
Coming out well?
It's the team has a nice way to say it. They say it's a good, ugly first draft. So it's a great place to start. It saves us time. And just like Dilip mentioned, if it enables us to churn out 20 pieces of content instead of the 10 today, why not? So that's the kind of outsourcing where it's not restricted anymore to say that outsourcing only means one particular company, somebody sitting here, staff augmentation. Those are all gone. So you can use technology tools, API services, off-the-shelf tools that can be integrated, and obviously cloud testing platforms and so on and so forth.
You use a lot of cloud.
Sorry,
You use cloud a lot?
Yes, we are hosted on AWS. Pretty much all of the data science abilities that I told you are all based on Redshift, Tableau, bunch of analytics. Every single thing, every single product in every single warehouse and every single store is tracked to this at any point in time. We are now implementing one software as we speak, which will tell us the footfalls and behavior of customers in our stores. Because today we have 21 stores, in 3 months we are going to be 60 stores. How are you going to do it? What is currently tracked on Excel sheet? And then X number of people came, Y were families, Z were that. They spent time in the dining area versus living area versus this. Today's manual. That whole thing is going to be taken through camera and tracked. And we'll get our analytics with it. So you have to be tech-enabled to be way ahead of what even, forget competition, we have to be way ahead of ourselves today.
Okay. You see cloud bringing down healthcare costs. There are all these worries about healthcare costs. And I'll tell you something else later, but healthcare costs, do you think cloud etc. can bring down costs over?
I think it can certainly improve efficiencies, and hopefully we can amortize overheads, over a larger base, and it can bring down the cost. To give an example, we have again a tech-related example. We have a collaboration with Fujifilm of Japan. They are the world leaders in what is called a picture archiving system, PACS. Where we could everybody's radiology images, X-rays and CTs and MRIs, everything can be stored. The Fuji system also allows us to put cardiac imaging, like an angiogram images. It can actually put images of a biopsy that somebody might have taken. That picture can be there. Even ECGs can be in that. So what happens in a Manipal environment is, given that we are on a single database, single location in terms of where a patient's records are stored, in what is called like one single jacket, every information of a patient could be available. So when a doctor looks at it, at the bedside on a device, he could not only see that X-ray that was taken that morning, but he could compare with something which was 5 years back, taken in another city, in another Manipal hospital, could correlate with an ECG which was taken maybe some years ago. On that, invite a doctor from another hospital of Manipal to look at the image and collaborate in a decision making. So all this would improve efficiencies in diagnosis, decision making, better utilization of doctors. That could in turn bring down the cost. But what we should remember is some of this technology is extremely expensive. So, it is when we make a decision to invest in a technology like this, we have to be conscious that this would increase the cost. We have to decide whether to go to pass it on or otherwise. But I would say at least hold the cost is what we are trying to do. We are not taking a price increase in the last 2 years, and we hope we can continue on the same way for another couple of years.
I think I can vouch for that. I was in a hospital 2 times in the last 10 days for a root canal in the crown, and I was surprised. Most of my teeth are by the way made in Manipal now, or increasingly it is becoming made in Manipal, many of them. I can be an advertising campaign for you. So the cost was actually lower than what my local clinic had given me. Almost half the normal joke is you are money, pal and all that. But in this particular case, you actually was significantly lower than my local. I don't know whether technology has any role to play. Is it volumes?
No, I think volume certainly has got a role to play there, Sujit, because if a doctor in the Manipal system is doing 10 procedures of that in a day, obviously the skill cost per procedure comes down compared to what the outside doctor would do, maybe 1 procedure every 5 days. I think that is one aspect. And secondly, that when we are a large system, our procurement costs and those benefits are something that we would be able to drive. That when we negotiate for 7,800 beds and and the consumables required for that, for every therapy area, compared to what the neighborhood clinic will, that's the other part. So we have that advantage, and I think that would be the reason. Unless of course you got a Sujit rate for being the big shot and that is not.
I don't want you to miss your flight. So thank you so much, both of you, Dilip, Chaitanya. Really wonderful talking to you. Is there a memento? I'm sure there is.
Everybody, a big round of applause to all our speakers and to our host Sujit. Thank you. I'd like to invite onto the stage Mr. Prakash sir. May we have you on the stage to hand over the mementos to our speakers, please. To make everybody smile. Can you put your hands together and show us that smile? Thank you. Well, this certainly was an insightful session, a potpourri of ideas flew in, and there were exchanges of ideas, perspectives that were shared. So thank you so much. Once again, a hearty gratitude to our speakers for joining us here today. A big round of applause for Mr. Dilip Jose and Mr. Chaitanya Ramalingegoda. While I retain Mr. Sujit with us on stage, sir, please stay back. You are the moderator for the next session. You mean a lot to us. And thank you. So could you please stay back with us on stage? Gentlemen, moving on quickly to our next session, which is a panel discussion. This is on the topic, technologies to accelerate business growth, perspectives from top tech leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you, we do have networking session, that is post-event, post-awards, and all of you are requested to join us at level 2, and I stand corrected. What is arranged for you is cocktails and the snacks. So let's join together there. Meanwhile, let me take you through who our speakers are for the panel discussion. Ms. Srividya Srinivasan, who is the co-founder and Chief Customer Success Officer, Amagi. I'd like to hold you on for a moment, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Srividya is responsible for cloud product and cloud deployments at Amagi, a unicorn company. Srividya is one of the few women entrepreneurs in the broadcast technology industry to have successfully conceptualized and introduced pioneering products for global markets. At Amagi, Srividya plays critical role of advising global clients on suitable cloud deployment architecture and designing custom solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now that you can put your hands together and welcome Miss Srividya Srivastava. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. She belongs to the broadcasting world and I belong to the sports broadcasting world, and I'm very delighted to see you here, ma'am. Hearty welcome. Thank you for joining us here today. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Kirti Varun Avasarala, who is the Chief Product Officer, Meesho, joining us here today. It is an e-commerce unicorn. We do know Meesho, and I am a user of Meesho. I do know what it holds on to. The e-commerce unicorn with over 125 million monthly active users. Previously, Mr. Kirti was Director of Product at Flipkart. He led product management for multiple strategic growth product lines. He has also worked at McKinsey Company and focused on advising clients in the financial services sector. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Kirti Varun joining us here today. Welcome, Mr. Kirti Varun Avasarala. Lovely having you with us. And our next speaker is Mr. Rahul Sasi, co-founder and chief executive officer of CloudSec. He is the youngest member of RBI's digital lending company. He's been invited to speak in over 22 plus countries as a domain expert. Previously, he worked for Citrix and iSight, and which is now acquired by Google Cloud. Hearty welcome to you, Mr. Rahul. Lovely having all our speakers with us, and I now hand over the entire panel to you, Mr. Sujit. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody.
Okay. Start off. Tell me, which are the technologies that you use the most? Should be just done. All these new age technologies that we talk about, AI, IoT, blockchain, all of those. Which are the ones that you use the most?
So to explain that, I have to give a brief mention about what Amagi does. Amagi is a pioneer in cloud-based video technology solutions. If today you open an OTT platform, the assets that you see, the videos that you see, are getting delivered by Amagi. It could be video on demand or it could be linear channels. So I'll give you an example of technology that we use. For example, many of your customers have live events. It could be sports matches, it could be newscast. Sometimes for these live events, not just for the events, but for the whole channel, linear channel which is running, they need to provide closed captions. So if you see
Closed captions
are like subtitles which come in. So if you see normally what people do is that there will be a director who will actually, a subtitle director who will keep typing in the subtitles as the event happens. It's a very expensive proposition. So in countries like US, Latin America and others, this subtitle people are using automated solutions. For example, we use two solutions, Google Speech to Text or Amazon's Transcribe, by which automatically as the event happens, it converts the audio to text. And yeah, we are 90-95% accurate. And we can still augment it with the dictionary. For example, let's say an event is happening or a match is happening. I would just give it the players or the venue and so on. With the exception of that, it's 90-95% accurate. In fact, we use it for English, we use it for Spanish, we use it for multiple languages. It's beautiful. You all might have seen it, right? In Google Meet when we all use it. It gives us the closed captions. It's damn good. So we use that, for example.
That would be AI and all that.
Yeah.
What is that? AI?
That is an ML based technology. That's an ML based technology. And then we ourselves built an automation for figuring out the places where you can do ad markers. So for example, if you watch a video on YouTube or any of those, at some logical points you hit ads, right? So that today is done by a human. Now we built the software using some of the technologies like TensorFlow and all that, by which we automatically identify the points where it can be done, so no human is involved.
So this is something that we use, and we use lots and lots of data analytics platform. I think previous speakers were mentioning about ChatGPT. I've seen a lot of Amagi employees just compressing the code into ChatGPT and asking what's wrong. And it will tell the answer. So to that level, it's damn really good. In fact, there are situations wherein, let's say, we're all back watching the World Cup football, right? Tell me the important moments of the game of Messi. It would just give it, right? And we can augment that information and create the highlights of it. So Amagi is working with all the technologies wherein these could be used. Machine learning is a major thing we use. Data analytics-based solutions we use, right? And those are it's a pure software company. So those are the things we major.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Shruti. Kirti, what about you? Which of the technologies that we talk about today are these?
Yeah, I think we are an e-commerce company. So just for context of people who may not be aware, Meesho is, I think, among the top 3 e-commerce platforms in the country. It's like an e-commerce destination for Bharat, as we call it, so tier 2 and beyond India. And we have close to 130 million customers. So that's sort of what Meesho does. And I think in our context, e-commerce obviously is a very complicated product itself, right? Multiple parts of the consumer journey, two-sided marketplace, sellers, customers, and so on. If I talk from a technology lens, I think the biggest technology that we use for multiple business problems is AI/ML. I think that's very, very big, and I can talk about how we use it, but that's one. Second, cloud is again the other one that we use a lot, and then data analytics. These 3, I think, are the most important things that we use. I think the place where we've innovated the most is in AI/ML, especially around solving different kinds of problems for customers, for sellers. So I'll just maybe give examples of a few. I think one of the biggest problems to solve in e-commerce, especially if you're a e-commerce platform that hundreds of millions of people use, the preferences change a lot, right? Which means that what one customer would like to buy versus what somebody else would like to buy is wildly different. And in Meesho's context, it's even more complex because we are a long-tail, unbranded marketplace, which means that any item that you see on the platform that a customer would like to buy, it wouldn't have a brand. And we sell fashion, home accessories, a lot of electronics and so on. So figuring out what to show to a customer versus somebody else.
Searching is difficult in that case, no?
Yeah, search is difficult, and also we have evolved to become a more, as I would call it, discovery-based e-commerce platform as opposed to a search-based e-commerce platform. So typically if you go to other e-commerce platforms, you know what you want to buy, you'll search for it, you'll find it. It's easy to search because it's also branded. Whereas here I think it's more of customers coming and seeing what is available by browsing rather than searching as much. Which means that our ability to show them what they would like is the thing that really drives conversion. And that's where I think personalization, AI/ML come into play. So if you look at the Meesho app, I think almost every part of the app is deeply personalized. Right? So what you would see as a customer on the home page versus what I would see is very, very different. And that personalization has many layers to it. I think the most basic layer is things like category affinity, what did you buy last time, and so on. But it goes much deeper. So there are demographic signals which are static in nature, like are you male or female, which part of the country are you from, and so on. But there are a lot of dynamic signals, right, which is what did you view in the last 5 minutes also determines what you will see in the next 5 minutes. Right? So a lot of customer interaction data, clicks, views, you can also share items with your friends, share also is an interaction. And also there is lens of what we call exploit versus explode. Exploit means selling more of the things that you already bought in the past. Suppose you're a customer, you bought sarees. Right? So we know that you like sarees, so we can show you more sarees. But we also know that we've launched a new category which you've not seen before. So you also need to explore new things as well. So balancing that. Right? So this entire personalization using AI/ML is probably the place where we've made the maximum sort of advances and Meesho's growth a lot. So that's, I think, one big problem area where we've applied AI/ML. I think the other one, which also is quite fascinating, is on the fraud detection side. So one of the big problems in e-commerce is called, we call it RTO, return to origin, which means a customer has placed an order, but when the order is getting delivered to them, they don't accept the order. Right? Either they're not available at home, or sometimes they say, hey, I don't want this. And that adds a huge cost to the business, because you're shipping something and then you're taking it back. And a lot of RTO, what we've realized, is actually fraud, which is somebody who's trying to sort of not do it with genuine intent. So a lot of AI/ML investments have also gone into
Deliberately trying to create problems for you? Are they deliberately trying to create problems for you, or?
So sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it may not be as well. So for example, there will be sellers who are basically with the fraudulent intent shipping, placing the order themselves and then trying to sort of not accept it. Sometimes it's also genuine reasons, like especially if you go to the interiors of the country, a lot of the addresses are not very clear, right? It's almost like next to this tree, this is a house, right? So there's no landmark, right? So people in the app also fill up addresses which are impossible for us to understand. So there are a lot of those kinds of problems. So what we've done is to build again a lot of intelligence on figuring out what types of addresses are genuine versus not. What types of customers are prone to doing fraud versus not. So a lot of intelligence, again, AI/ML has gone into that. So that's another big problem area that we've applied to. So these are the two big areas, but there are many such business problems where I think AI/ML is something that we've utilized quite a bit.
Okay, I'll come back to you quickly. Rahul, same thing. AI, I guess, is big for you as well.
Yeah. So one of the tools which I use the most in the last couple of weeks is something we launched ourselves. By the way, how many of you know how many apps you have installed on your phone? The number of apps? It's 10, 20? Do you know the number of apps you have on your phone?
A vague idea?
Right? And if you think about it, each of these apps have access to some amount of information on your phone. Some of them have access to your gallery, some of them have access to your SMS, some of them even have access to your emails. Right? Now, we just launched a tool. What it does is, it tells you the security of every app that is installed on your phone, which basically tells you, the app developers, how much effort they have put into delivering security for each of those apps, and give you a rating and a full report. And we launched this just 2 weeks back. The most interesting thing is it's completely free. So this is it's completely free. This technology, what you launched, is completely free, because the amount of fraud and data leaks and cybersecurity incidents are just going crazy, right? You need free tools and tools to actually tackle many of these threats. And because you said fraud, right? We work with one of the largest e-com company in the world, and specifically when it comes to India, none of the customer support numbers which you search online are the legit numbers. The scammers have put hundreds and thousands of fake customer care numbers online. So you go to Google and search company name, customer care number, what you get is the fake customer care number. And people end up calling those numbers and they get scammed. This is just one of it.
I do that all the time. I do that often.
Yeah, well, lucky that we have taken on the call. Yeah. So one of the things we do is we monitor a large amount of sources on the internet, primarily to look for fraud that can impact our customers. In terms of e-com company, a fake customer care number would be the one. One of the things we observed is a large electric scooter manufacturer. All the websites which is supposed to, for people to register EV sender, what do you call you can have your own dealership, right? You go online and then fill up the dealership page, and then you pay a certain amount of money and you become a dealer. Now all the dealership websites put up for one particular manufacturer are fake, and the scammers were getting 3 to 5 lakh rupees
they're scamming per person 3 to 5 lakh rupees in the pretext of a fake dealership. And of course, this money is supposed to be going to the legit company, but it actually ends up in the hands of scamsters. Now, what is happening now is, as of today, all the scams are done by humans. Bad guys sitting there, creating a website, creating a fake customer care number, etc., etc. But in the future, with ChatGPT sort of systems, these threats would not be created by humans, but by a machine. The sheer volume of threats that is going to impact human beings in the upcoming future would be unimaginable. Right? So, what we do at the company is, our technology is like a surveillance system. We call it X-Vigil. It monitors the internet. It monitors every nook and corner, trying to read as much as information on the internet, come back and say that this is a threat that is impacting this particular company. And you know, while we sell it, we take a lot of pride, because a lot of activities we do is in the end making people not lose their money. So if someone has lost money, well, we fail there. If someone has saved money, we are able to help mitigate it.
There's a lot of AI that you use in all ML and all that.
It's the same way like the ChatGPT works, but we go to the internet and collect information and analyze it.
Right. Okay. I just want to ask all of you. I think cloud, of course, must be really important for Amagi and for Misho, right? We had a conversation, I remember, with Bhaskar long ago, your co-founder. Cloud is the reason why you become so successful, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah?
Yes, that's right.
What is it?
So basically, to give a small history, right, including, I think, Times Television Network, I have visited several places where they do broadcasting. And before Amagi existed, there used to be huge rooms like this, where they had the hardware machines, or they would outsource it to other companies who do the playout, right? And these are like huge machines, and to manage them, they'll have a huge task force, like an IT team and so on and so forth, and they're super complex and expensive to manage their broadcasting chain, it's called. So, why is cloud important? Is that we came from a different world. Before doing Amagi, we were building software for mobile phones for wireless music. So when we looked at this broadcast industry, we looked at, why are these things so expensive, so complex? How can we make it simple? So we built a playout engine, a video playout engine on the cloud. Of course, we built it on the cloud because we couldn't afford to buy those machines. So we just built it using public cloud, and we demonstrated how the whole thing can be done. And we started telling all our customers, saying that, hey, you can launch your channels directly from the cloud, and you don't need a single piece of equipment, except for the cameras, where you're actually taking the live events. You don't need huge broadcasting equipments for creating subtitles, for inserting graphics. All of those are not required. People listened, but they did not move. Slowly, the innovation came as a visionary company moved into Amagi, and then slowly practitioner companies moved into Amagi, and slowly the thing moved. But Amagi wouldn't have existed if not for cloud broadcast, cloud playout, right, or cloud delivery. And that's what actually made us a unicorn. And today, Amagi runs more than 5,000 servers for our customers worldwide. All the customers broadcasting that we do, be it a linear channel or be it what delivery happens on the cloud. We actually telecasted Olympics Ultra HD for our customer from the cloud.
So, can you estimate how much costs came down for your customers with all of the cloud?
I am 100% sure that they saved at least 2/3 of their cost of what they were originally spending. And more than that, when COVID came in, people really realized the power of doing things remotely by operating from the cloud. This is one of the reasons why we felt that, in fact, we even recommended to some of our Indian broadcasters, including the groups that we are all popular with, saying that there is no need to have a production control room, wherein, for example, let's say an event is telecast like this. There will be a production control room wherein this signal will go, then the studio signal will go, several signals will be merged together, and a picture-in-picture will be created and will be telecast. We actually explain how that can be built on the cloud. So we are working on those cutting-edge technologies by doing it on the cloud. Cloud need not be only public cloud. It can be private cloud. It can be Lenovo cloud. It can be any cloud. Doesn't matter. Cloud just means a data center which is not physically located in the place where you have to be. That's all it is.
Private cloud is also fine.
That's right, it doesn't matter.
Cost-wise?
Cost-wise, it will work out the cheapest. And there are a lot of broadcasters or even other customers who would feel the need to keep the things private. And if they need to, they can still do it.
I'm sure is also. Are you totally on the cloud?
Yeah, and because we're an e-commerce company, I think the amount of data, etc., that gets generated, especially at a large scale, is pretty huge, right? So for us, it's more about leveraging cloud solutions and leveraging cloud providers, because that getting into the business of running cloud is not something that's core to us, right? So for us, we are on the other side where we want to leverage cloud service providers, and that's sort of how we look at it. And in simple terms, like I think Vijay was saying, it's more about fixed versus variable cost, right? You don't want to sort of run the hassle of maintaining data centers, sort of incurring the fixed cost. You want to be able to ramp up and ramp down. So you want to variabilize the fixed cost that used to earlier exist when people had all these on-prem sort of setups, right? So very clearly, I think moving to the cloud and using a cloud service provider is something that we have done and makes a lot of sense for us.
If you have to do something very customized and all that is possible, not a big deal.
I think where we are in terms of the innovation in cloud technology, now almost everything is possible, right? So especially when you operate at a big scale like Misho does, I think all of the cloud service providers are more than happy to sort of offer as much customization as possible, because for them this is the core of their business, and for us this is not something that we want to break our heads on, right? So it's sort of win-win on both sides.
Okay. Rahul, how do you operate?
I can't call my company CloudSec and not be on the cloud. So we are a cloud first company. One of the beliefs, the reason why the name is important is that I believe eventually everything is going to the cloud.
Yeah.
Right, everything. And if you go to a lot of government organizations today, they are very, they're not so much into going to the cloud. They would say, I want an on-prem solution. But think about it, right, as of today. If you think we are the ones who are only using cloud, in fact, everyone in the audience is actually using the cloud as well. You use Facebook Messenger. The data, what is cloud? In the end, someone else's computer is where you store your data and process it. A Facebook Messenger stores all the data on their server, which is actually the cloud, right? So in the end, cloud is basically something which you don't own. It's basically outsourced in form of storage or computation, right? A cloud, Amazon or a Google is more of an infrastructure where they provide cloud as a solution. And the reason I think everything is going to the cloud eventually is because for these trends. But if you think, in the early days, my mom used to make the curd at home. She never used to buy. Today, she has outsourced that particular thing, right? See, eventually humanity and human beings have the tendency of outsourcing things which would make their lives simpler, right? Everything else is empty. So the future is always going to be cloud, where we'll put more trust there and eventually go there.
Okay. You yourself are often a target of attack, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You have been able to stop them all?
So I think the interesting thing is that when now you're given the responsibility to a third person to manage, X, Y, Z, there's always a risk. But that risk is also there if you are managing it. For instance, one of the security issues we ourselves as a security company faced was we had an attack on our company, right, which is very frequent. Being a cybersecurity company, people like to poke on us. One of the successful attacks was actually we use a software called Jira. Jira is it's a program management tool many companies use. The credentials of that was actually available on the dark web. The dark web is a portion of the internet where if your data gets leaked, it's good for sale, sort of, right? So our credential was available on Jira, on the dark web. Obviously, we have technology to monitor and identify these credentials, so we identified it. So when you say your password is leaked, what do? You change the password.
right? Now this is where it gets interesting. Attackers are no more going after your password. They have something called cookies. Cookies are the file which is used to store the authenticated session with the server. That's actually stored on your file. So when your computer is compromised and the passwords are getting leaked, both the password and the cookies are leaked on the internet. So even if you don't have password, you can just replay this session log with your cookies and get access to any of your servers. And even if you have two-factor authentication enabled, you can bypass it, right? Now, this is a responsibility we have given it to Jira, but of course, their mechanisms are not enough to prevent it. But that doesn't mean the future is going to be like that, you know. We work with them, we improve their security posture, our own security posture, and it is always going to get better. So, yeah.
Okay. To all three of you, looking ahead, future, you just mentioned future, what are some technologies you think will become more important for each of you, and how do you plan to use those?
So from Amagi's perspective, just like Misho, right, we are trying to personalize content. Imagine you watching a movie, right? Like initially, it says that, you know, you need to watch some ads. And you watch some ads, and then it recognizes that, okay, you watch this much of ads. Now no longer you need to be burdened with ads, because you have watched enough number of ads for us to give you the, how nice it will be, instead of irritating us for every 10 minutes. Right? So basically, a lot of such personalization can be done. We call it as zero state. For example, EPG is electronic program guide, which comes on the TV. So when you turn on a TV, you get a standard EPG, the same EPG. Whether I watch Marathi movies or not, I will still get Marathi movies. I don't want it. I'm not a Marathi. I watch either English, Tamil, or I watch Hindi sometimes. That's all I need. So how nice it would be if you have a personalized EPG. So for Amagi, the machine learning part of it, the personalization, the video optimizations that can be done. Many times it happens to us, where a customer would come and say, in fact, very interesting use cases came in. One of the top news channels in the US is a customer of Amagi. They said, we are always having a problem when we are re-adding the newscast. That is, some news has happened between 8 to 9 in the morning. They want to re-add it, say after that, say color block. I asked, what is your problem? They said at 9 o'clock, normally we give some traffic updates about what happens in some choking points in LA or whatever. Those traffic updates are no longer meaningful at 12 o'clock. I want it to be automatically removed. Unfortunately, I don't have a solution today, but we want to remove it. Right? So how nice it will be if it's automatic. So how can machines do things which are mundane and for which humans have to be employed? So many cases with all those the downturns that happen in the US and other places, these are some things where people look for. People actually wanted an automatic scheduling system which would schedule their linear channel for 24/7. Amagi provided the solution for it using machine learning. We've taken a look at 5 years of their data, 5 years of their schedules. Based on that, we understood what kind of genre of programs they play, and then we suggest to the scheduler, this I think is a schedule which you might be interested in, and the scheduler picks up some of those, and based on that, the channels could be scheduled, the linear channel. And we might all be wondering, why are people going to watch linear channel? Do you know what happens? When we all go back home at 8:30 in the night, when we are so tired, we don't want to go and search and figure out what to watch. We just want something to play. And then something has to be interesting. How nice it would be if it is interesting. So personalization, using machine learning for optimizing the tasks which can be done by machine, or some of those which are very important one.
Okay, so you think AI/ML is what is going to still remain the most important technology? Okay. Kirti?
Yeah, I think for us as we look ahead, I think two things will be important. One, AI/ML for sure. I think the second one also has a lot of potential is augmented reality. So maybe let me talk about AR, augmented reality. I think in e-commerce, we have moved to a world now where most things that we want we can discover and buy. But the critical angle that is still missing, which sort of is limiting the adoption of e-commerce to the extent it can be, is some version of a little bit of the touch and feel and seeing how something looks in your environment versus just looking at an image of it, right? I think that's sort of where the AR technology comes into play, and I do believe that if we have to increase e-commerce penetration in some categories, for example, like furniture, even in beauty, right? some of the personal care kind of items, and even some aspects of fashion where you want it to be much more bespoke, customized, you wanted to see how it looks on you, right? So all of these types of categories which we typically call high involvement category, where you want to be very, very sure on how something either looks or works, etc. Before you make a decision to buy. I think those are the places where AR, I think, is going to.
Where are you today on that? Where are you today on AR and also how good is the technology?
I think the technology is sort of in nascent stages, I would say, in terms of applying to the e-commerce context. So you would have sort of seen some apps where you can basically put a table in your live environment and see how it looks, or sometimes you can see 3D sort of rotational views of different things. So I think some of those are possible, but to me, still it is nascent. Being able to sort of fully replicate that in the natural environment and being able to sort of drive that decision making for purchase, I don't think that's very high. That's why you have not seen that being applied, but I do think that in the next maybe 4-5 years that is going to change a lot. So that's a technology that we also sort of have started to invest in.
This is what will eventually lead to the metaverse and all that, is it?
Yeah, metaverse is sort of a more advanced version, I would say. Metaverse is more of, I think it's not really AR, I think it's a different version of VR, virtual reality. So it's more of the digital avatars of people sort of getting together and doing different things, right? Like a meeting or going shopping together virtually. So it's sort of doing the activities that you do in the real world in a virtual world, right? So it's more extension of VR, whereas AR is more of sort of replicating some digital object in the real world, and then you see how it looks, feels, etc., and then you make a decision, right? So it's slightly different, but I think both of these, I think, will evolve a lot. Especially AR, I think, is going to be much, much more relevant in e-commerce, for sure.
Okay. Rahul, you want to think ahead a little bit?
Yeah, so, I mean, by the way, I'm a firm believer of AI, ML, primarily AI, and let me ask you a question, Sujit. Do you think as of today an AI controls your life? Yes or no?
I'm sure it does.
It is. What about the audience? How many of you guys think an AI controls your life today? Just raise your hand if you think an AI controls your life. Pardon? See, today, you travel from one place to the other. You depend on Google Maps. 10 years back, you would have asked 10 people directions. That's like getting input from multiple people. Now it's just one source of information, that's Google Maps. Where Google Maps tells you you should go, you drive that way. Where Google Maps tells you there are traffic, you avoid that route. You don't have any other source of information apart from that single source of information to make your decisions. That's one example, Google Maps, right? It's a technology, eventually this technology is going to decide where you should drive. If you look at your social media feeds, you would have the same LinkedIn platform, but the feeds you would see are two different feeds. Because the post which you would read is different from the post the next person would read. But if you look at the newspaper world, there's just one newspaper. Everyone reads the same newspaper, right? Now an AI decides, or machine learning decides, which person should see which feed on your, which article or post on your feed. Again, an AI decides what you should be reading. So the future, and then again, we have to adopt the future. And I think the future is going to be AI having much more capability in influencing our lives. So I believe, and thank me later, a new field called prompt engineering, which is basically interacting with these AIs, figuring out how they work, and getting the best use of them, or the best outcome of them. It's called prompt engineering. Note it down and thank me later, many years down the line. This is going to be a very important field that's going to evolve. It hasn't, it is going to evolve. Again, getting the best use of AI to make sure that you're making unbiased decisions, to make sure that you get the most productive outcome of any technological solution is where this would fall under. So that's what I believe would be a next.
Okay, AI, yeah. Rina, how are you doing on time? Where is Rina? Okay, we seem to have some more time. Metaverse, are your customers asking for things like AR, VR, Metaverse and stuff?
fact, I just realized that I wanted to talk about it. So recently we did one, I would say, a prototype or an experiment wherein we got Quest Pro. I don't know how many of you have seen the Quest Pro devices. Quest Pro is a device which is launched by a Metaverse company, and you can wear it on your head, and then you can get into the virtual world. And the way in which we used it is, the moment you wear it, we have a lot of interesting things like a game wherein you go through a roller coaster ride and you really feel it in roller coaster ride. Those are for understanding how it works. So how the way in which we used it is, I can get a large screen in front of me. The screen does not exist, but to me it looks like a large screen. Now imagine such a large screen being present, and I can augment it with any video that I have. Now imagine if you go to TV channels, stations, or any of those, right? You see large number of rectangles where different feeds are running. So we wanted to give it to our customers, wherein you can have, it's called as a NOC, Network Operating Center for a broadcasting company, wherein all the feeds come on that virtual interface. So your imagination is the size of the screen. I mean, we literally tried the experiment. We actually gave it to our customers and they just loved it. So virtual reality is something that definitely will augment the way in which we watch content, the way in which people monitor content, and how some of these are even transmitted. Similarly, gaming, interactive gaming based content creation and interactive gaming based events are also something that we are seeing, and these two are there for years, I feel.
Okay, interactive gaming, absolutely. That's another area that's becoming so important. So, I'm sure we are running out of time, but to the audience, a lot of small entrepreneurs and some advice to them on how important technology is and what kind of technologies they should focus on.
I think if you just zoom out a little bit and see what's happening in the world, I think in the sort of last few years, just the relevance of technology has increased a lot, especially with the pandemic. While we are now, seems like we're out of the pandemic, but a lot of the habits that the pandemic got us used to in terms of getting sort of more digital in our habits and also getting used to the virtual world. All of those, I think, have just increased the relevance of technology, and I think now everybody knows that this is sort of how the future is going to evolve towards. So just being tech savvy, irrespective of how young or old you are, I think is probably the most important skill everybody should build. Right? And typically in the past, I think people who were in roles that required them to understand technology, etc., were the people who did. But now I think, irrespective of what role you're in what company you're in, I think this is tech savviness, tech appreciation probably is the skill that everybody needs to have as we look ahead. I think that's one. In terms of just the kinds of technology, I think we've had conversations today about different things, but to me again the most important one which will revolutionize almost everything is AI/ML, because just the broad nature of its applicability and because of that it trumps everything, whether it's cloud or AR, VR, everything else. I think AI/ML is the one which will trump purely because it sort of can create value everywhere, right? So that is probably the place where a lot of innovation is going to come from. We've already seen innovation, but I think it can just go much bigger. I think that's sort of one big area to sort of keep in mind.
Okay, Vinay just reminded me, yes, we have a few more minutes. So are there questions for the panelists? We can take some questions. Anybody raising hands? Yeah, please go ahead.
You talk about password compromise and then cookies, right? So it's like password one can change, but what about your advice to the cookies problematic?
Yeah, so with cookies, certain companies, for like a Google, for example, have a mechanism that even if someone tries to replay the cookies, they would not let you in. But many companies, for example Jira for instance, that is not the case. And for Jira, they haven't fixed that particular piece yet. They have to make engineering changes in their infrastructure to only, even if someone replaces a cookie from another computer, then they would stop it. But that is a fix that is supposed to be coming in the future, but not yet there. So what we are doing for that, because of that matter, is we have moved into single sign-on, that we use Google as the single sign-on mechanism so that you have to go through Google only to reach Jira. You can't reach Jira directly. And you can't use a username and password on Jira or cookies on Jira on its own. So Google becomes your identity and access provider. That is one solution you have as of now.
Okay, but how do we determine on that whether the company has already mitigated that or not?
I think not yet done. Got it. I think that's a good blog article. I think suggestion. I think we should publish that list. So we'll do it. Thank you.
Yeah, please go ahead. Mike.
This is a question for Kirti mainly, because of your background in e-commerce and so can you talk about AI in supply chain and manufacturing?
Sure. So I think Meesho is an e-commerce platform. We're more a marketplace, so we're connecting sellers to buyers, and we also have supply chain more through third-party logistics providers who we integrate. Right? So that's sort of the ecosystem in which we operate. So specifically, if I look at the supply chain part of it, I think there are a few areas where AI/ML is very relevant. I spoke about the RTO example, which is more around fraud, which I think is a big use case, because supply chain cost tends to be the biggest cost in an e-commerce company. So everything that you can do there to curb fraud automatically reduces cost, right? So that's, I think, one big area of application. I think the other area of application which is going to become more relevant in the future is as you have more logistics providers, right, who can take something from point A to point B, especially for an e-commerce platform, building intelligence on which provider to give an order to also becomes complex, right? So in simple terms, we call it the allocation engine, right? Which basically figures out if a customer has placed an order and that person is in Bangalore, but the item that person has ordered is in Surat, for example. Right? From Surat to Bangalore, multiple different providers can potentially ship it, and their service levels are very different, so the time it takes to ship, their reliability on it, they said they'll ship in 3 days, will it come in 3 days or 2 days, 4 days, we call this breach. So those are parameters that we have to look at, but on the other side you also have to look at cost, right? So how do you optimize all of that intelligently and in real time to provide sort of the best customer experience, also optimize for the lowest cost, I think is a complicated problem, which is where I think AI/ML will start to become more and more relevant, especially as the logistics ecosystem in the country develops. I think that's definitely one area. If I come to manufacturing, and here I think it will be a bit nuanced, given again the e-commerce setup. I think one of the areas that we are also going to experiment with is to figure out how can we understand consumer trends better, faster, and then provide that intelligence to suppliers who are manufacturing those items. So if you look at the world of fast fashion, which I think is a very big and large and growing category in India today. So a lot of the Western wear is starting to move in the direction of fast fashion, like your Zara's and others are becoming popular. But even in the sort of outside of the metro cities, a lot of the younger customers want to see that fast fashion on Meesho, right? Which means our ability to understand what are the trends and then being able to give that intelligence to sellers so that they manufacture it in time and then we sell is also an area where there's a lot of application of AI/ML. This is something that we've started to experiment with as well. Actually, these are some use cases I think where AI/ML is very relevant in both supply chain manufacturing, but most companies haven't really grabbed it. These are all things that I think will start to become relevant now.
We'll take one last question.
Yeah.
My name is Srinivas. My question is for Rahul. As he was making the presentation, immediately I downloaded the app, and then I had about, I didn't even know I was running that. More than about 100 applications were there installed. I don't know how it is. So I found about 60 were in the safe zone, and another about 30 odd were in the moderate zone. In that moderate zone, My question is, how quickly you are able to run this and throw the details? I have another question later on. Yeah.
Why we are able to, okay, so he installed the app, so he saw 60 apps in safe zone and 30 in moderate zone. Glad that there was nothing risky. How we are able to do it really fast is because we have analyzed 1 million plus apps, which is already there in the market, analyzed them and kept the results. So it's just pulling the results, comparing with the version you have on your phone and telling you the results. That's why it's a really fast.
Yeah, my question again, because one of the important thing is I have this postal IPPB, that is Indian Postal Online Banking. That is in the moderate zone.
Okay.
Okay? It's an important, which I think I will have to also escalate.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Perhaps how you will be able to, because maybe you would have taken the application and analyzed and found it is in fact in the moderate zone. Maybe they must have fixed it. Have you reanalyzed this app?
We do reanalyze it every once a month. That's what it is right now.
Okay, because another one was Geo, my Geo.
Yeah.
It was in the moderate zone.
Yeah.
And the third one was this Vodafone. Okay. These three apps, it was quite amazing. Okay. Because they all
it's not a free price for us, okay?
Exactly, I know, but I just wanted to, out of curiosity, I just wanted to interact. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm told we are run out of time. We can't. There's another person who wanted to ask. I'm so sorry.
I will ask.
Yeah, you can talk to them directly after this. That also reminded me. I know, Amagi, I remember a conversation where we can end on this cricket note. How highlights of a match you can create literally in seconds now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Srividya. I think AI is being trained. Okay, this is Virat Kohli. AI is being trained to say this is a sixer, and instantly at the end of a match you can just, I guess, say, show me all the sixes that Virat Kohli made, and seconds he was there.
Yeah, that's exactly the use case. You can create a promo, mesmerizing moments, and I just explained. So that's how people do it, and AML has been trained, as mentioned, long ago, saying that these are the players, these are the jerseys they are wearing, this is the team, all of those are trained, and therefore it can quickly generate those important moments, whether it is goal, whether it's a six or whether it's a catch. Each game is deliberately trained.
Okay, AIML, that seems to be the most phenomenal technology right now. Thank you so much to all three of you. Delightful discussion. So there are some mementos for all of you. We need some pictures as well.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Mr. Sujit, for moderating the entire session. A big hand to all our speakers, Ms. Srividya, Mr. Kirti, and Mr. Ram. Thank you so much. We'd like to hold you on with us on stage. I'd like to request Mr. Sundar Pottur, Senior Vice President, the Times of India Group, to please join us on the stage to hand over the memento and felicitate our speakers on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand once again. We hope all of you are tweeting about the event. Make sure you use the hashtags. And that is ET Lenovo IT4 SMB. Hashtag Times of India. Everybody, a big hand to all our speakers and to all our participants for moderating this session. Thank you once again, everybody. It's time for us to continue on to the awards. Thank you so much, Mr. Sundar, for doing the honors. Lovely having you with us. Thank you, Mr. Sundar. And all of you have actually tweeted. Fantastic. Thank you. Our backend team is going to look into those tweets and they're going to be very, very happy. We spoke of so many gold and silver coins. They will be probably mined next year. However, for now, we'd like to continue our event. And the next part of the event is very, very thrilling. It is something that you must have been waiting for. It is where we thank and appreciate all your endeavors. Some of us today, this evening, possibly, are going to get some wonderful awards, and it's time for us to move on to the most awaited IT4 SMB Awards, ladies and gentlemen, wherein we recognize individuals and companies who are on the path of transformation enabled through smarter technological solutions. We have EY, Ernst and Young as the official tabulator of the awards. How many of you are excited for it? Can I see hands coming up? ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಮೈಸೂರಿಂದ ಕೂಡ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಸುದ್ದಿ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಮೈಸೂರಿಂದ? ಕೆಲವೊಬ್ರು. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಮಿಕ್ಕಿರೋರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನವರೇನಾ? ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದವರೇನಾ? ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನರಿಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜೋರಾದ ಚಪ್ಪಾಳೆ ಬರ್ಬೋದಾ? ಸೂಪರ್. Indian Chappaleyondige, with this applause, we will begin the IT for Assembly Awards. And to do the honors, ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to invite onto the stage Ms. Chandrika Jain, our Chief Managing Officer, Lenovo India, to unveil IT for SMB Award Trophy. Ladies and gentlemen, lend us your Romans and our dear countrymen. We want all your eyes on this screen as we unveil to you the winners, what are they going to get? The trophy. And it's the time to bring forward IT for Assembly Award Trophy. Just like the rise of the phoenix, the IT for SMB Award Trophy symbolizes the powering, the rise of SMBs. I'm happy. Do you like the logo? You've been seeing it around. Can we give a round of applause once again? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Chandrika Jain, for unveiling it. I'd like to hold you with us on stage. And I would like to invite onto the stage to give away the next set of awards. And that is Mr. Deepak Saluja. May we have you with us, please. Please give a big hand. Once again, everybody. Thank you, sir, for joining us here. But before we head on to the awards, ladies and gentlemen, the choice of selecting the runners-up or the winners hasn't been easy, but it was made delightful and convenient by the panel of stellar jury who put in everything in selecting our runners-up and winners. Would like to introduce to you who they are. Please put your hands together for our stellar jury. Mr. Satyavrat Mishra, Head of Corporate IT, Godrej Industries Limited. Mr. Amit Saluja, Senior Director and Head of NASCOM Gandhinagar. Mr. Manoj Chuk, 4-decade award-winning Indian IT industry transformational leader and distinguished IIT alumnus. And Mr. Abhay Bapna, AVP IT Adani Wilmar Limited. Let's give a big hand to our jury for all the efforts that was put together. When I don't see my audiences smile, it brings a lot of doubts in my eyes and my face, my expressions say it out loud. Are you guys happy today? Can I see my audiences smile and giving our jury a big round of applause, please? Thank you everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, without holding you any further, we would like to quickly begin our awards, and we'd like to begin with our first set, which is the Organizational Awards. We begin this evening with recognizing the emerging SMB. Ladies and gentlemen, the second runner-up for emerging SMB goes to, and our presenters will be doing the honors. May we have the ushers coming up and telling us who that could be. Meanwhile, I want all of you to keep your eyes on the screen and hold the applause. Hold the applause. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from our presenters.
But on that note, who doesn't like the awards? So the second runner-up of the category for emerging SMB is Valenta AI Private Limited.
I would like to call upon Mr. Jagan and Mr. Abhay to please join us on the stage to receive the award. The second runner-up, ladies and gentlemen, Valenta AI Private Limited. Everybody, let's give them a round of applause, please. AI Private Limited, to Mr. Jagan and Mr. Abhay, lovely having you with us. We would like to quickly move ahead and tell you who the first runner-up are. And to do the honors, of course, we have Ms. Chandrika Jain with us, our Chief Marketing Officer, and we have our very own Mr. Deepak Saluja. I'd like to request both of you to do the honors.
Safe Technologies Private Limited.
First runner-up is InstaSafe Technologies Private Limited. I'd like to request Mr. Prashant Guruswamy, co-founder, to receive the award. May we have you on the stage, please? We also have co-founder and the CEO, Mr. Sandeep Panda, joining us on the stage. Congratulations. Applause, please. And the time has come for us to know who the winner is. Emerging SMB winner is that is Define Bio Innovations Private Limited, requesting Mr. Afshar Sharif, co-founder and CEO, to receive the award. अरे बाप रे, इतना सन्नाटा वो नहीं होना चाहिए, बिल्कुल भी नहीं। तालियों की आवाज जो है वो जोरदार आनी चाहिए सबकी तरफ से हमारे विनर्स के लिए, हमारे अवार्ड रिसिपिएंट्स के लिए। होठों पे मुस्कुराहट और हाथों पे तालियां, बस यही महफिल की शान बढ़ाती है। तो चलिए एक बार फिर जोरदार तालियां। थैंक यू। Define Bio Innovations Private Limited. And to all the award recipients, we have to all, ladies and gentlemen, this is for small-sized business. And the runner-up is
our runner-up for this evening on small-sized businesses, Anybody.
Let's give a big hand to anybody. I'd like to request Mr. Saigal Biswas, Head of Marketing, Digital and PR, to please join us to receive the award. तभी मैं कहती हूँ दोस्तों, ना शहर देखो ना मियाँ माँ देखो, ना तालियां देते हुए इनका अभिनंदन कीजिए. Congratulations! It's time to know who our winner is for small-sized business.
Our winner, and we should get the applause right louder.
Absolutely.
Exotel Techcom Private Limited.
Ladies and gentlemen, Exotel Techcom Private Limited. Let's give them a round of applause. I'd like to request Ms. Shweta Jain, Senior Regional Sales Manager, Exotel Techcom Private Limited, joins us on stage. We have so many gentlemen joining us on stage. There's a lady who's stepping up to receive the award. I know all of you are going to give them a round of applause. Last in the organizational category is mid-sized business. And I've been told there's only one winner. We don't have a runner-up here. And ma'am, please do the honors and tell us who the winner is.
The winner Practo Technologies Private Limited.
I believe Practo co-founders are traveling and have requested Ms. Shilpa Fadnis from Times Techies editorial to receive the award on behalf of Practo Technologies Private Limited, and she's here with us today, Ms. Shilpa Fadnis. Congratulations to Practo Technologies Private Limited and all our winners today. We are delighted having each of you with us. And thank you, Mr. Deepak, for doing the honors while I retain Ms. Chandrika Blas on stage. I would now like to invite onto the stage Mr. Sundar Kondur, Senior Vice President, the Times of India Group, to give away the awards. Well, I request our presenters to please take the center stage. Please join us on the center stage. SMB Leader of the Year, and the runner-up is
Our runner-up, Colonel Ravi Bhushan Gupta.
Rural show on behalf of Colonel Ravi Gupta. I would like to request Mr. Prem Ayyappa to receive the award. Congratulations. Thank you to some of you who are applauding. How about all of us? Can you put your hands together? Thank you. Well, with this, SMB Leader of the Year.
Okay? So our winner for the SMB Leader of the Year, Madhusudan N. Kestur and Chandrasekhar Bharti.
Ladies and gentlemen, SMB Leader of the Year goes to is Micromatic MIT Private Limited. We have Mr. Chandrasekhar Bharti, founder and MD, and Mr. Madhusudan N. Kestur, Director. We've been here to receive the award. However, we would like to have you with us, sir. Congratulations. बहुत बधाई हो आपको. Love super chapade babe kono danase. So haga you super chora the chapade Our next category is SME CTO CIO of the Year, and the winner is
Raman Umakant from Wheat Technologies.
We have with us Venkatraman Umakant from V Technologies Private Limited. Let's give them a round of applause. And I've been specially told today that Mr. Venkatraman has rescheduled his US flight to be present here today amongst us, everybody. I think that's also a round of applause. Of course, that means a lot to us. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Congratulations again. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a jury special award, which is an honorable mention, and let's see who receives that.
Okay, the winner is Ringya E-Infomedia Private Limited.
I'd like to request Ms. Pavitra Vice Sundari, founder and the MD, to join us on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand to Ringya E-Infomedia Private Limited. I'd like to request all of you to step 3 steps ahead, please. 3 steps ahead. To please join us on the stage for a group photograph with your trophies, please. Can we have all of you joining us? All our winners across categories. With that, of course, the awards has winded up. And if you've been meeting की साथ में और हमारे Chief Director Lenovo India, may we have you on the stage, please. I'd like to request Ms. Alex and Mr. Shaju to please join us on stage for a group photograph.
Ready?
Shaju and yes, sir, Vinny's right here. Please join us on stage. Thank you. Are you around? Mr. Vishal Bora, are you around? I'd like to request you to please join us for a group photograph. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big hand to all our winners on stage. It's wonderful having all our leaders with us here today. Thank you so much. Thank you once again, thank you to all our leaders. While I retain Ms. Chandrika Jain with us on stage, since you've been here for a long while, it's been some time now, right? Just before we wind up, we want to do something. We want all of you to stand up for a moment. Can we do that? Just about 15 seconds. Let's stretch ourselves. Yeah, just make yourselves comfortable. Those on stage can still be with us. Don't feel surprised. We'll tell you what to do. I want all of you to stand up for a moment. Can you do this in the front, please? Yeah, little exercises. It's good. You don't have to really hit the tablas, but you can act like you're doing one. You can put them up right there. Yeah, look to your left. See who's seated. Actually, you got to know them. Look to your right and do this to the side. And again on the top. Bring them closer, and now applause, come on, everybody. Well, that's how the applause looks like. Thank you so much. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Ms. Chandrika Jain, our Chief Marketing Officer from Lenovo India. Delighted having you with us. Thank you for your time and thank you for doing the honors. I would now like to request Mr. Sundar Kundur to hand over the memento to Ms. Chandrika Jain. Well, the applause is not restricted to just that table there, but the entire hall. I won't ask you again, I promise you for that. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Sundar Kundur, for doing the honors. Well, the stage is all yours, ma'am. And for the closing note, I hand over the stage to Ms. Chandrika Jain. So good evening. As you've heard, I'm Chandrika. I'm part of the Lenovo family, and it's an absolute pleasure to have spent the last couple of hours with you. I think before I begin and say anything else, I'm extremely conscious that I stand between you and some cocktails, so I'm going to make this very crisp and very fast. And through the last 3 hours, the only takeaway that I've had is AI ML will do my job. And if AI ML will not do my job, ChatGPT will do my job. And my boss heard that. So I'm going to put that aside for a moment and behave like it didn't happen. But coming back, there were some big learnings for me personally. I'm sure each of y'all had more learnings. Some extremely inspiring and left me thinking. Think big, think bold, put the customer in the center. If you have cracked the formula of what the customer wants, you probably have the most successful businesses, or at least that's what we saw today. Technology is for everybody, no company is too big or too small. So many more big thoughts that came out today. I'm definitely going back home with something to think about, and I'm thinking a lot of you would do the same. On that note, I would like to stand here today on behalf of Times of India and Lenovo and thank a lot of you who made the time for us and made the time for yourself. Very, very special thanks to Naveen Tiwari, the co-founder and CEO of InMobile. I think he paved the way and made the way for a lot of us to be inspired by what he did. The contrasting conversations between Dilip Josh and our Wakefit Chaitanya Gowda was phenomenal in my view. The fact that large companies need technologies and there are small companies that are born with technology and really nobody can go either way without technology was what I took away. It was so contrasting yet so real. So thank you for making that conversation so enthralling and so insightful. And by far my best conversation was the last buffet of experiences that we just heard from our very own CEO of Meesho, Kirti Varun, Srividya, I think your energy is phenomenal and all that you bring to the table. Thank you. And Rahul, you've left me more scared than I have been. We will continue this conversation, and I'm absolutely interested in understanding a lot more about the prompt engineering. Trust me, AI is not serving up what I want. But on that note, it was still an experience for me and a lot of learning for me. And thank you from all of y'all and on behalf of Lenovo in Times of India to each and every one of our panelists. I also believe that partnerships leads to successes, and today this event that we've brought to you is a partnership that we've had with Times of India. So special thanks to Sudit, John and Deepak. It's been an absolute honor working with you guys, it always is. So thank you for making this possible, and I hope we'll be able to do a lot more of this. And none of this is possible without an audience like you who are interested, who are here in spirit, who are here in interest. So thank you for taking off the time on a Friday afternoon. I hope we've made this worth your while. And our lovely host who's kept us awake and clapping and happy. Thank you very, very much. And finally, it is Lenovo's intent to bring you enabling technology. We want to walk along with you and along with India as we enable India into the next decade. On that note, have a wonderful evening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it is the conclusion of the IT for Assembly Awards. It's the conclusion of the Times Tech Drive that is brought to you right here today, and I hope all of you had a good time at Times Techies Tech Drive, which is the Bengaluru edition, a part of larger Lenovo IT for Assembly initiative in association with the Times Group. Did you all have a good time with us today? Was the event worthwhile? If that's a yes, can we have a louder round of applause coming from our please? Once again, hearty gratitude on behalf of Times Techies Tech Drive, brought to you by Lenovo and Times Group in collaboration, bringing this entire event, making this a successful event to remember it is you who made that possible. And we are grateful to each one of you for your time, for your efforts, and thank you to the entire console, to our videographers, our photographers. Can we give them a round of applause, please? Everybody at the console there. Everybody. To ensure that everything goes well and everything is executed well. And thank you to everybody. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you, Sundar. Thank you, Ranjit, for having me on board. My name is Reena D'Souza, and I had a great time hosting this event. Talking is my game. Reena D'Souza is my name. With that, ladies and gentlemen, see you at the networking session level 2, where cocktail and snacks are waiting for you. Thank you so much once again. Have a great night. And I've been told it's level 2. Level 2. Yes, it is level 2, everybody. Have a good time. See you all soon at level 2. Thank you. Thank you once again, everybody. Thanks a lot.
What you receive, and then we'll take from there. How are you feeling and what is about the awards that you received and how you're feeling. So it's rolling, you can tell me your name and designation.
My name is Afsar. Startup defined by
Can you talk to us about the award you received tonight and how you're feeling?
It's unexpected, it's amazing, it's going to be it's like first of all I can tell you, because from time of inception, we were instituted a form in December of 2020, and since then they now been put in India, and this is like huge. We didn't see this coming. So when
and designation and then move on to talk about the award.
Hi.
What the award? There is one also.
My name is Chandrasekhar. I'm Managing Director of Waste Micromanagement IT. And I'd like to accept this award on behalf of all the team members.
So we'll start with your names and then we'll move on to talk about the award. Slowly, your names, please. Can you talk to us about the award that you've received today and how you're feeling? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Start with your name and designation and then about the award.
It's been a honor to receive this award. Great platform. Understanding what industries are doing and tech. It's touching all businesses. And in our industry, which is service, mostly the idea is basically kind of how you get the cost of services down by increasing the quality of services. The tech innovations are very important. While we are already well informed, it's a quality services. It is a good exposure in this field.
Start with your name and designation and then the award.
I'm Rathnaiah. I think that
Yeah, that's me.
Managing Director of India
Can you talk to us about the award that you've received tonight and how you're feeling?
It's a very special moment. We've received a jury special award. This was all about inclusion, the human inclusion, how technology has played as an enabler for including a lot of people with visual impairment. We never thought of getting beyond the four walls, but today they are leading processes, leaders who are actually inspiring a lot of people who felt cannot do anything and helping a lot of businesses to transform and thank you.
Rolling. We'll start with your name and designation and then we'll move on to talk about your work.